Am I the asshole for causing my autistic half-brother to melt down and telling him he deserved it? So, I was supposed to be a boy. Or at least that's what the OBGYN told my parents. My dad had this big hang-up about the firstborn being a son, and has hated me since the day I was born. 2 years later, after blaming and punishing me and my mother relentlessly, he cheated on her, and the woman conceived a son. So he divorced my mom and married her. As soon as my half-brother was old enough to realize my gender made me a failure, I was bullied relentlessly by him. I remember Star Wars Episode 3 coming out and getting bombarded with screenshots of, "You were supposed to be the chosen one." I've dealt with 2 decades of this crap, always excused by my dad and his mother as social struggles due to autism, and finally had enough and went LC. Well, recently my full sibling came out and began their FTM transition. I'm very happy for them and they are absolutely blameless in this situation. My half-brother took this as a reason to send several very nasty texts about how everyone else was giving my dad the sons he wanted, but I was still a failure. I snapped, and I deeply regret what I said. I told him that the point of having a son was to continue the bloodline. I was in a committed relationship and perfectly capable of giving my father a healthy grandson. Meanwhile, he hadn't had a single relationship last beyond the first date because no woman would put up with an entitled and pretentious jerk like him. His half-sister, no relation to me, blew up at me because he melted down and has been explosive and nasty for days. I told her he probably deserved a taste of the bullying I endured for years. But now I feel like a bully and regret lashing out. Not the asshole. All you said to him was, "At least I get dates," and that set him off. Nah. Your bro sounds like an incel and didn't like being called out by a female. Not the asshole. Sounds like you need to ditch that side of the family 100%. Not LC go NC. He's upset 1, because you finally talked back to him, he's shook. That's someone he's been able to abuse for 20 years finally opened their mouth. 2, he's upset because the truth hurts. And you're not wrong, the whole son thing is just for the name. When you have kids, you're still going to have children that are genetically related to your asshole father and asshole half-brother. Unless you decide to keep your asshole father's name and pass that on to your kids. The only different thing the asshole half-brother can give his kids is the name. Am I the asshole for agreeing with her ex and not my sister? As a kid, I always looked up to my older sis because she was so cool, pretty, and the popular girl. I always tried to be like her, dressed like her, listened to her music, you get the idea. I was popular the first time I stepped through the HS door because I was basically a copy of her. I was overwhelmed by the attention but quickly found out she was mostly popular with only the guys. She dated many of the guys in our HS and they thought I would too. I was so embarrassed. I had our mom take me out to buy new clothes and everything. Whatever she did, I went the opposite way. She wore tons of makeup, I wore none. She listened to a certain type of music, I didn't. We went to different colleges. Fast forward to now. Sis must have figured out her lifestyle wasn't healthy so she stopped dating a bunch of men, deleted all of those apps, and met Sam. He's very good looking with a great personality and amazing job. He was smart, funny, outgoing, and can own the entire room when he walks in. He grew up in a different city so his family doesn't live here but we've met and they're amazing just like him. Sam quickly replaced us as mom's favorite child and became our dad's best friend. He eventually proposed and everyone was over the moon. I was very happy for sis. Last week she came to my door looking like a complete wreck. She was crying so hard she couldn't talk. After an hour or so, I calmed her down enough to get the story. Apparently they were at a party and was mingling separately when he overheard some guys talking about her popularity. Sam joined the group and got her dating history. 2 of the guys in that group dated her and about 4 other guys at that party did too, one of whom works with him, which is why they were there. He heard about the guys laughing about how all the men in the town were depressed when she went away to college but rejoiced when she came back. When they got home, he asked her, she told him the truth, and he left without saying a word. I helped sis and she's been staying with me for now. She hasn't told anyone and have been trying to get in touch with Sam and his family but they're all ignoring her. Everyone on our side is super confused because Sam just disappeared. Our cousin, my best friend, pinned me down the other day to ask what happened. I told her and she was appalled. She called him all sorts of names and insecure. I said I can understand from his view as we live in a small town and it's hard to know many men and your coworkers, no, your future wife. Then my cousin and I got into it. She said I should be supporting my sis no matter what. I argued I am supporting her, but supporting doesn't mean I have to agree with her. Now I might lose my best friend. Edit. We're all in our 30s, graduated college, and living on our own. You are the asshole and so is your sister's ex. She deserves better. Quit punishing women for enjoying sex. You are the asshole. This is incredibly sexist. If she had been a guy, it would have been fine. As a woman, I always ask myself that question in any situation. Would it be the same if this was a man doing it? Would she have left him if he slept around in HS? And her friends were all talking about it. Or is this a situation created by her exes trying to act alpha around her new man? Crowding around talking about what? How they peed on her tree first. Gross frat guy behavior. And doesn't seem like you like her sister that much. You have a terrible opinion of her. Maybe she deserves it, but not from anything you shared with us. How old are you? This seems very, very immature. This is extremely pick-me behavior. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to leave the room when my husband told me to? My husband's best friend, female, got the news of her dog's cancer days ago. My husband would call her every day till yesterday when she visited. I opened the door for her, greeted her, then led her to the living room and went into the kitchen to get a glass of water after my husband asked me. I came back and didn't find them in the living room. Turns out they went into the guest's room and the door was shut. I heard weeping, sobbing sounds coming from the inside. I knocked, then got in and found them embracing each other crying. I stood by the door, but my husband paused and told me to give them a moment. I gotta say that I did not feel comfortable with his request, so I remained standing. He got up and started repeatedly telling me to get out. I told him it's my house and he can't tell me where I can and cannot stay. He got angry and told me to get out and we'll talk later, but I refused. He asked what was wrong with me for not seeing how tense the situation was and for not giving them privacy. I told him that they did need to shut the door for any reason, no matter what it was. We argued and she ended up leaving. He blew up at me afterwards, calling me unbelievable and saying I had no respect for him and his friend who's going tough a hard time and refusing to give them privacy. I told him how weird it was for them to shut the door just because they were crying. He told me that I was petty and overbearing to act like this in front of her and stopping him from showing proper support. Now he's completely gone radio silent and is acting like I kicked her out or treated her poorly. Some context. 1. Ages of those involved are 26 female, 28 female, and 31 male. 2. She's been his best friend, sister-like for over 8+ years. 3. She tends to be very emotional and highly sensitive. 4. We don't get along because she tends to be a boundary stomper and says things that make me feel like I don't know my husband as much as she does. She also compares us as well. 5. Initially, I did not want her to come to the house, but my husband called her and told her to come since he didn't see her after the news was received till yesterday. Okay, I am going to get so down-voted for this. But I honestly don't know if I would feel comfortable with my husband in a room holding another woman that isn't family. I find this strange and disrespectful. I get men and women can be friends, but there is a thing of being too friendly. Don't get me wrong, I am not a jealous person, but the fact they were hiding in a room from her just kind of puts off alarm bells in my head. But I don't know the whole situation, but like I said, it sounds strange to me. Not the asshole. This is going against the grain I see, but if a spouse shuts the door so they can embrace another person in secret, that is suspicious as hell emo. If you don't think you are hiding something and it is an innocent hug, then leave the door open and hug your friend publicly. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that her investing losses are not my problem? I, 30 male, come from a very poor family, but my wife is from a very rich one. She started off the marriage with a net worth of $31 million, and I started it off with $300,000 in student debt. When we got married, she made me get a prenup that separated her inheritance and got rid of my right to an elective share to it if she dies. In other words, I renounced my spousal right to a third of her separate property if she dies, making her sole beneficiaries her siblings or potential children. My debt and our incomes were also separated. We both got lawyers, hers much more expensive than mine, and notarized the prenup. None of this was a problem for me as a man. I'm determined to pull myself up by the bootstraps, not rely on my wife's wealth for anything. The only beneficial part of the prenup for me was that our incomes were also now separate, And I earned a somewhat higher income than her, and so I was okay with it overall. 5 years later, I still don't have a seventh of her current wealth, but her investments haven't been doing great this year either. As a sole crypto investor, things have been going very poorly for her. I had warned her not to do this, but she invests in a cryptocurrency called Monero, which is down 47% this year. About 5% of her money was not in her wallet and was in the FTX exchange itself, which she lost after FTX went bankrupt recently. She now has a net worth of around $18 million. I don't invest in crypto, but rather in index funds. They've taken a hit this year as well, but based on historical performance, they should go back up eventually. No such guarantee for cryptocurrencies, and certainly not for Monero. I came home to her crying the other day after she found out that FTX went bankrupt. I told her, "That's rough," not in a sarcastic way, and I went upstairs to change. When I got back downstairs, she started bitching and complaining, talking about how nonchalant I was being about her losing money. I pointed out that she's still extraordinarily rich in spite of her poor choices and that she could stop investing in crypto at any time if she wanted to. Besides, she was the one that wanted to separate everything, so why does she want to make it my problem all of a sudden? Am I the asshole? I came to her crying the other day after she found out that FTX went bankrupt. I told her that, "That's rough," not in a sarcastic way, and I went back to my room to change. I don't understand why having separate finances would stop you from being able to comfort her. If my partner said they dropped $20 down a drainpipe, I'd have more sympathy for him than you showed your wife who lost a considerable amount of money. I get she has more, but it still sucks and I don't see why you couldn't sympathize with her. She didn't ask you for money or ask you to solve her problems. She just asked that you give a shit that your wife is having problems. Info: do y'all even like each other?